Everybody has different reasons. Nick wants to do this because people have said that he can't. Matt wants to do it. He's been quoted as saying he wants to better the wrestling economy. And me, I want to do it because I want to live forever.
It was the show that gave shine to the independent scene like never before, and in the process, sparked the biggest shakeup in wrestling in 20 years. This year, the show is back in front of 80,000 plus in Wembly Stadium. And it all started with a tweet. This is a look back at the show that planted the seeds for AEW. This is All In 2018. The story of the biggest independent wrestling show in history starts, oddly enough, on Twitter. Back in May of 2017, wrestling journalist and agent of chaos Dave Meltzer was asked if Ring of Honor could ever sell out a 10,000-seater. Something like Madison Square Garden, for example. Just an example, no foreshadowing whatsoever. Dave's response? Not anytime soon. Which, in Dave's defense, at the time was a valid observation. See what I did there? But honestly, at the time, and for the majority of its history, ROH was running 500-seat buildings, and occasionally getting into the 1,000-plus territory, especially when running the Hammerstein in New York City, which was 2,000 max, and their WrestleMania weekend events that were 2,000 to 4,000 depending on the year. Either way, for the first half of 2017, the average attendance for Ring of Honor was 1,100, so Dave's presumption was a fair one. But Cody and the Bucks felt differently. Cody responded that he'd already given Ring of Honor their highest buy rate, and all that was needed was him and the Young Bucks on the card. And in Cody's support, that was also true. At the time, Cody was about a month away from winning the ROH World title. I couldn't find specific buys for ROH in 2017, but I assume he's right on that point as well. Earlier in the decade, Ring of Honor entered into a partnership with New Japan, allowing them access to the Bullet Club. And with it came a huge uptick in interest and business. Whenever the Bullet Club comes to mind, the 2017 era of the group is the exact lineup I think of. Personally, 2017 Bullet Club is my Bullet Club. Sorry Finn, sorry AJ. Cody was a big draw for Ring of Honor, and the Bucks weren't far behind. The three had shown by this point that if the corporate machine won't get behind you, you create your own machine. Cody spent the years after WWE release making his name everywhere. Aside from ROH and New Japan, he'd pop up in Northeast Wrestling, PWG, Evolve, WCPW, Impact, and anywhere else willing to have him. And the Young Bucks? They were never even given a chance by WWE. They spent their entire career carving out their own niche in the business. They also worked anywhere and everywhere that would have them. And they launched their extremely successful YouTube series, Being the Elite. When ROH were touring combined shows with New Japan, Cody and the Bucks realized that these shows were being main evented by Bullet Club members. And after the main event, folks didn't want the show to end. So they introduced the Bullet Club Party. Just silly little bits they do for the crowd after the show. And with these post-show skits, they discovered something special was happening. The crowd may have been 1,200 people, but it felt like 10,000. So why couldn't they put it all out there and try to pack a 10,000 seat building? Even if Ring of Honor or PWG didn't want to put the money up or put their name on it, it could still be done. Cody and the Bucks would finance it and put the whole thing together independently. With ROH and New Japan's blessing, Cody and the Bucks were betting on themselves as they always had and were going all in. The name, by the way, was suggested by Cody's sister Teal, and it was perfect. They began planning the show. They'd used the Bullet Club branding since it had really become a monster of its own. They wanted to show the world what was happening outside of WWE. A taste of Ring of Honor, NWA, GCW, and everything else that was out there. They could finance the show to a point, but still needed sponsorships. Or as they called them, friends of being the elite. Hot Topic, Cracker Barrel, and Fridays hopped on board. They'd get a little help from Ring of Honor with talent, production, and maybe a little cash. They assembled a team to help work out details consisting of Cody's manager Brian Wittenstein, Matt Jackson's wife Dana, and ROH's Gary Juster. But all the logistical decisions and booking would be up to the Bucks and Cody. The agreement was 3 thumbs up was needed before anything was decided. Every call to a talent had them sweating bullets they could afford them, or that they'd even want to be a part of the show. If they could put together a big enough card, there would be no question that they'd sell out. Build it and they will come was the strategy. But would people show up? It certainly seemed like it would be a success. Their target audience of die-hard wrestling fans were ecstatic. Some were apprehensive. When you're someone like me and you've seen a number of promoters come along and say they're gonna put on some major show that ultimately falls apart. But this was Cody and the Bucks. So there was reason to be hopeful that it would all come together and be an amazing show. Not everyone was convinced it would work though. The event had its fair share of detractors. Not even just Twitter trolls. When Chris Jericho told Vince McMahon about the show, he responded that, "Ugh, Labor Day weekend is the worst time to promote a show, pal. Damn it, they should have called me." Former ROH owner Kerry Silkin chastised them for putting tickets on sale on a Sunday. He'd been in the ticket broker business for a long time and thought it was a terrible idea. With only some talent announcements, tickets sold out in 29 minutes, crashing the website in the process. Kerry was so happy to have been so wrong. For Cody and the Bucks, All In was an adamant statement that wrestling was alive and well and doing better than ever outside of the WWE system. The ticket sales were a huge sign that they were right. But for ROH, All In was testing the waters of their production. How could they shoot a building this size? What would the presentation be like? After all, there was a pretty major event coming to New York City in April the following year. And a particular world's most famous arena sitting empty that weekend? To help build hype for the show, Cody released the All Us series on YouTube, allowing fans to follow along in the creation of the biggest independent wrestling show in history. To make things even bigger, the show would be available on Fight TV, Honor Club, and traditional pay-per-view. And the pre-show would air on Chicago-based cable network WGN. Together, they put on a card of 11 matches that really did have something for everyone. It was a great sampling of everything you could see on various independent shows. The pre-show featured the over-the-budget Battle Royal that was on its own a glimpse of talent you could see on a lot of independent shows across the country. It was a blend of Ring of Honor, Impact, and independent favorites. Folks like Brian Cage, Tommy Dreamer, Colt Cabana, and even Jordan Grace. They had the celebrity involvement in the form of Stephen Amell from Arrow losing to Christopher Daniels. There was a pretty solid women's four-corner survival that highlighted 4 of the top women's wrestlers at the time, ultimately won by Tessa Blanchard. It seemed at the time she would be the leader of the next generation of women. The singles match of Matt Cross finally getting his big chance on pay-per-view around the world, taking on and defeating the up-and-coming MJF. Cody challenged and defeated Nick Aldis for the NWA World Championship in a match that was not only fantastic, but also had a big fight feel with its build-up and Cody's desire to hold the very same belt as his dad. All In also had a ton of ROH flavor, including the Briscoes vs SoCal Uncensored, and the ROH World title match of Jay Lethal retaining against Flip Gordon, who'd won the Battle Royal earlier in the night. For the fans of plunder matches, they included the Chicago Street Fight, pitting Jim Cornette's favorite wrestler, the bad boy Joey Janela, against Hangman Adam Page, with Hangman getting the W. There was a taste of New Japan when Marty Scurll took on Okada. Marty lost. Kenny Omega battled Pentagon Jr. with the Best Bout Machine coming out victorious. But the most shocking moment came at the end with a post-match attack by Penta, who turned out to be Chris freaking Jericho, continuing his feud with Omega for New Japan. A funny story Jericho's assistant told on Talk Is Jericho really illustrates the DIY, flying by the seat of their pants nature of the show. Penta was asked to bring 2 sets of gear so Jericho could disguise himself. Penta brought 1 gold and 1 silver. Obviously, it wouldn't work for the spot they had planned, so Jericho's assistant ran to Home Depot and found gold spray paint to help match Penta for the spot. It wasn't perfect, but it was close enough that most people wouldn't notice while there was an attack going on. And Penta was super cool with them altering his gear, and it looked really good. Of course, then there was the incredible main event. The Golden Elite, Kota Ibushi, Matt Jackson, and Nick Jackson, defeating Bandito, Rey Fenix, and Rey Mysterio. This match really was everything the show had been, all encapsulated in one match. The hottest tag team on the scene at the time, 2 of the top luchadors, a Japanese legend in the making, and an established legend finding his groove again. And to top it all off, the match delivered. All In was a huge success. Every match delivered in some way. There were limited production gaffes, and over 50,000 homes purchased the event. Now that may not seem like a lot compared to WWE's buys on pay-per-view in the past, but it's not too bad considering there was no company with weekly TV putting it together. Hell, even TNA's highest buy rate was about 60,000. This was September of 2018, and by January 2019, the Elite had left New Japan and Ring of Honor to join a new promotion, All Elite Wrestling. One of the people watching All In was billionaire and lifelong wrestling fan Tony Khan. Tony saw the success of All In, the success of Wrestle Kingdom, the entrepreneurial spirit of Cody and the Bucks, along with WWE's record-breaking earnings, and realized there was an opportunity for a real alternative in the wrestling space for the first time in 20 years. Like them or not, AEW has changed the landscape of American pro wrestling. On April 6, 2019, Ring of Honor finally cracked the 10,000 seat mark when they teamed up once again with New Japan to present G1 Supercard of Honor. 16,000 plus packed into MSG for what felt like something special. Almost 20 years of work to make this a possibility. But to me, it was a bittersweet experience. While the show felt so special and had some incredible matches and moments, the core 4 that helped set the stage for it, the Bucks, Cody, and Kenny, were gone. I make a passing mention of this in my Ring of Honor Rises and Falls video, but if Sinclair Broadcasting had really wanted a successful wrestling company and not just content for their syndicated stations, in my opinion, they could have easily been where AEW is now. But they didn't want that. And now Tony Khan owns the revolutionary legacy of ROH. And part of that purchase was the broadcast footage of All In, which brings us back to the present. In a matter of days, AEW will present All In London from Wembley Stadium in front of 80,000 plus fans. An improbable destination for a show that started because of a tweet. Enjoy the show. I know I will. Watch wrestling. Love wrestling. I'm Scott from Retrospective. Thanks for watching.